biggest myth about traveling with kids is that you need a lot of money. One of the questions I get asked the most is, how can I afford to travel with a young kid? Because people just assume you either have a lot of money, a lot of savings, or you have a really well-paid job and you have to be rich. But actually, most families traveling long term aren't rich at all. We definitely weren't, and we're still not rich. But we just made that decision and we made it happen. If you're new here, I make videos for mums who want more freedom, more travel, and a way to leave the UK with their families without having loads of money. If this is something that resonates with you, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. So this video is going to be all about how families actually afford to travel long term. I think the biggest thing is the myth, isn't it, around long-term travel. Like, we see these influencers, we see these people on social media, and they look like they have a lot of money because they're out there doing these incredible things, having these amazing experiences. They're on beaches and they're traveling the world. So people kind of just assume that you're either earning loads of money, or you have a really well-paid job of some sort, or you have a huge pot of savings, or some wealthy relative that's funding all of this stuff. But there is definitely a difference between what you see on social media and reality. So I spend a lot of time on Instagram and I see all these people who are world schooling and who are traveling, and they make it look really glamorous and really expensive, whether they mean to or not. Because it does look expensive, doesn't it? Like, if you think about where they are, they're traveling, they're flying, they're in and out of airports, they're sitting on these amazing beaches, sipping on cocktails, and their kids are in these world school hubs and they're doing all these activities. But the reality is that these are just normal people. Most people I've met traveling are just normal families who earn normal levels of income, who just wanted to change their lives and live life a bit differently. Nothing out of the ordinary. They're not particularly rich. They're just normal people. And the reason why there's this kind of disconnect between what we see and what the reality is because in the UK, we kind of think, if you're going to be spending all this time sitting on a beach, drinking cocktails or beer, and your kids are going to be learning how to surf and this kind of thing, it must be really expensive to do that. Actually, it's not. It's so much cheaper when you're in certain countries than it is to be in the UK or in Europe. You know, if you think about rent in England, in Kent where I live, you can't really rent anywhere 2 bedrooms for less than £1,000 a month. Anywhere decent anyway. £1,000 a month in somewhere like Thailand or Bali or Vietnam or India or anywhere else really is going to get you something really, really nice. Like, rent in those countries is so much cheaper. So for example, in Goa recently, I was paying about £230 a month on rent. We had a 1-bedroom flat. It had a kitchen. It had obviously a bathroom. It had a washing machine. It had aircon. It had a balcony. It had everything we needed. All the bills were included. It had Wi-Fi for, about £230 a month. And there's no way I could get anything like that here. Absolutely no way. And Thailand's a bit more expensive, and Bali, rent is higher, but it's still nothing like England. So the cost of living, just that, is a lot lower. Food is obviously cheaper. You know, you can eat really well in some countries for less than you can buy at McDonald's here. And if you go and eat street food, and if you eat with the locals, it's dirt cheap, and it's really, really good too. And then things like transport, you know, getting a bus around where I am at the moment. We're staying at my mum's. It's like £5 for a 15-minute journey. In Southeast Asia and other places, you can get a Grab, which is kind of like Uber, and they cost next to nothing. Or you can just hire a scooter for, a couple of pounds a day, and you've got your own transport. Everything is just cheaper. And I think the kind of mindset shift that happens when you're traveling long term is that you're not on holiday. You're not going to be paying for a really nice hotel by the night or by the week. You're going to be paying for accommodation longer term, so you can negotiate the prices, you can get it cheaper. You're not going to be staying in the big hotels. You'll be staying somewhere smaller and like a guest house or maybe even renting your own apartment for a bit. And if you can stay somewhere long term, you can get better prices, obviously. And the same goes with food. You don't eat in the most expensive restaurants every night, maybe sometimes as a treat, but not all the time. You wouldn't do that if you were at home in England. You wouldn't be eating out every night. You'd buy food and you cook at home, or you eat in, cheaper places. And that's what you do when you're traveling. We often go shopping and we cook at home. And if you don't have a kitchen, you can certainly go and eat where the locals eat, which is normally street food and lower cost restaurants. And they're so good. They are really, really yummy. But I think not being on holiday all the time is a mindset shift. And I think that is where you start to prioritize the things that you really want to do with your kids and your family. You're not going to spend every day having excursions and going to tourist sites, because that's what you do when you're on holiday. When you're slow traveling, you're living there. And when you get to know people and you get to know an area, it's a whole different way of experiencing a place. And it's so much more fun, I think. And obviously, when it comes to actually earning money, income doesn't need to be tied to one place. And this is the key. It's about finding work that you can do online or remotely. It's about finding ways you can earn money without being in one place. So for myself, I have a few different ways of earning money. So, I do YouTube and I sell digital products online. I also teach English as a foreign language, and I'm also a life coach. So I have lots of different sources of income, and they really help me to stay traveling for as long as we can, really. Obviously, if you have a definitely like a location dependent job, maybe you're a nurse. I used to be a nurse in a previous life. So if you're a nurse, it's maybe more difficult to transition to something online. But for most jobs, I would say you can find a way to transition to remote work, whether it's slightly retraining or whether it's looking into a different way of offering that service that you give, or doing something slightly different. So you could become a freelancer. You could go and get a remote job and work for somebody else. And if you're struggling to think of a way to do that, then start your own business, do something different, start selling digital products, use your expertise in a different way and start helping other people to do that thing as well. Start a YouTube channel, whatever works for you. There are always ways to find work online. And that's why I created the free guide to earn your first £100 online. It gives you lots of ideas to how you can start making that money, and start small, because when you start making even just £100, it gives you the confidence that you can make more. So if you want that freebie, there's the link in the description. So I think, it's not about just going, oh, that's it, I'm going to book a flight and I'm just going to go. It does take some planning to do this, and it does take some working out and figuring out how things can work for you and your family, because every family is different and every person is different. So it's kind of hard to say, what I did will work for everybody, because it probably won't. But I was a registered nurse for a long time, and I left that a few years ago and I retrained to become a life coach. And I started setting up my own business back in 2000. So I had that behind me, and I knew that that's what I wanted to do moving forward. And then I added the teaching English qualification, just so that I had that regular income, because coaching can be a bit sporadic. And then I started creating the resources and the guides that I sell. So find what works for you, and then do some learning. If you need to find somebody who can help you out, and if you need to find someone who can teach you, then that's really good. Of course, there are lots of other ways to make money. I'm not a financial advisor, but there are loads of ways to make money online. Even if you invest in something, or if you can rent. We rent our house out as well, so we have that as a source of income, and we have savings too. So we do have lots of sources of income. But it's just important to, once you've made the decision that you want to go, you can find ways to make an income from so many different sources. So it's not about knowing exactly what you're going to do straight away. It's not about just going and booking that flight and selling all your belongings. It's also about having a bit of a plan, having a bit of income, and having a bit of courage as well, because it is a brave thing to do. It can be quite scary as well, but you can do it. We did it. There's nothing special about us. We're just normal people who decided we didn't want to live in the UK, send our kids to school every day, go to work every day, and have that mundane sort of routine. We wanted something more out of life, so we made it happen. And I think most families I've met traveling have either been working online, either freelance or employed by somebody else, or running their own business, or they sell digital products online, or they have a big Instagram following and they monetize that through affiliate links and other things, or they've sold their house and they have a huge pot of savings, or they've been made redundant and they have savings, or they have investments in whatever, stocks and shares or ISAs or wherever they put investments in, and they've made money through that as well. So there are lots of different ways I have come across with families who are making money and traveling long term. It's just about finding what works best for you. And if you do want to start building income online, don't forget to grab my free guide, Your First £100 Online. And if you're serious about leaving the UK, I've also linked below in the description the UK Exit Starter Kit. Plus, I also offer coaching and planning calls if you really want to get the nuts and bolts of how you can do this, and some personalised support from someone who's been there, done it, and is planning to do it again.